Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing an album review. I'm going to be taking a look at this record today, which is Echo and the Bunnymen's self-titled album from 1987. So yes, I'll just be doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album's tracks in detail. So as I said, this was the band's 5th studio album released on the 6th of July in 1987. It would be the final album to feature the original lineup of Echo and the Bunnymen, and it followed on from the hugely successful album of theirs, Ocean Rain. Both critically and commercially reached like new heights, for the band. But that album was released all the way back 1984, so it took them quite a good few years to follow it up with this album, and like it was quite a long time like in the making, with the sessions for this album starting in 1985. These initial sessions, though, were initially unproductive. They only managed to finish off one song and release one song in the year of 1985, which was the non-album single "Bring On the Dancing Horses." And then after these initial 1985 sessions, the drummer Pete DeFreitas left the group due to growing drug addiction issues and also poor mental health, and they would the remaining members scattered around for a replacement in the back half of 1985 into 86. Tried a few different options, including ex-Haircut 100 drummer and future Paul McCartney drummer Blair Cunningham, and also ex-ABC drummer David Palmer. Now, this lineup with Palmer would enter the studio at the tail end of 1986 with their previous producer Ian Brody, who had produced, I think, the first 2 Echo and the Bunnymen albums, certainly Crocodiles he produced. But the band were unhappy with the results of this material. So again, changed tack again, and started working with Gil Norton, who had produced Ocean Rain, but once again weren't happy. The sessions just weren't working out for them. And then around this time, Pete DeFreitas decided to rejoin Echo and the Bunnymen. He'd I don't think had quite solved his drug addiction issues, but was certainly getting on the right track again. So he was brought back in, albeit on the terms of a hired session musician. And then Ian McCulloch decided to get Lonnie Latham in to produce the album, who had produced the likes of the Stranglers previously. The band were also, under quite a lot of pressure from the record company to go in a more commercial direction for this album. I believe there's a story where the record company played them Peter Gabriel's "So" album and said, "We want you to sound like this," which the band were a little bit put off by. So even though they had selected Latham as the producer who would go on to produce this album, these sessions still did not run particularly smoothly, with Latham spending up to a month recording a single track, and the band tension just growing higher and higher, especially between Will Sargent and Ian McCulloch, who McCulloch himself was developing his own alcohol and addiction problems, and was becoming even more egotistical and quite difficult to work with around this time. However, it could be said that the difficulties around this album's birth could be considered worth it, because this was a hit album for Echo and the Bunnymen, reached number 4 in the UK, and would also be I wouldn't quite say their US breakthrough album, but really their only real commercial success in America, where it reached number 51 on the Billboard charts there. However, critically, it received a bit of a mixed reception, with Rolling Stone magazine stating that it's as vacant as it is pretty, although others were kinder to it, sort of appreciating the slight change in direction for this album. They weren't just repeating their earlier albums, they were trying something new, expanding their sound a bit, so it did win some plaudits for that. And post the album's release, it was a bit of a kind of sad end really for Echo and the Bunnymen. So following the kind of touring commitments for this album, which featured the original four-piece lineup. Like in 1988, McCulloch would leave like the band and start a kind of solo career, and have some success as like a solo artist. The remaining members though continued on with the Echo and the Bunnymen name, or rather like intended to, until Pete de Freitas was killed in a motorcycle accident in 1989. And the band would kind of look back on this album not particularly fondly. I think in 1992 McCulloch said that they kind of got sort of too sucked into the sound of American radio sort of friendly sound, and kind of he felt that they maybe lost a bit of their identity on this album. But anyway, I want to now show you my vinyl copy of it here, which I think is an original UK pressing on Warner Brothers. So there is the cover. I do really like the cover, a good kind of moody band shot there, and then the back cover there is just them doing something weird with their hands and that, which is quite a good cover. It's quite iconic. I'd say these are almost probably the most iconic images, I suppose, and most recognizable images of Echo and the Bunnymen on this album. That image there, I think is still used to promote their tours to this day. So just got the inner sleeve there with all of the lyrics and another photo there, and then the record label just again repeats that same kind of design there, on the label there. And there's the other side. So that is the vinyl record looked at. Okay, so I'm now going to go over each of the album's tracks. So I'll score each song out of 10 and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. A sense of duty was my one intention, and an ugly beauty. So the album kicks off with the track The Game, which was the lead-off single for the album, and is one that I actually do have the 12-inch single for here. So this is The Game here. This is a good song for the album. Starts off the album quite well, maybe a little generic kind of sounding, quite sort of jangly guitars on it, and a slightly predictable melody, but it's good though. It's a good solid kind of mid-80s sort of jangle pop sort of sound. So I guess a sound that wasn't pushing the boat out, but was maybe something a bit different, a bit more softer, a bit more gentle for Echo and the Bunnymen. The lyrics are good on this one, possibly about feeling, I guess, exhausted or kind of out of luck. He sings through the crying hours of your glittering years, or the living out your tinsel tears, all the midnight trains I never made. So the good lyrics, quite that kind of classic evocative kind of Ian McCulloch lyric on it. And like I said, this was a single, not a particularly successful single. It only reached number 28 on the UK charts, which was a bit disappointing following the success of the Ocean Rain singles. But it is a good song though here. The Game kicks off the album quite well, I think. Next track on the album though I think is even better actually. It's a song called Over You, and this is another upbeat song, I'd say actually slightly more commercial sounding in a way than The Game. I think this would have actually made a really good single. It's got it's perhaps a bit more of a throwback to their earlier sound. It's got kind of guitar stabs which remind me a bit of The Cutter, and again a strong vocal from McCulloch, that kind of the chorus is very catchy, that feeling blue again, never wanted to, under the weather, and it's over you. It's really catchy, a bit of a grower this song here, a song that is quite infectious, I feel. Next up is another one of the more popular tracks on the album. I think this was maybe the third single issued, which I've not got a copy of, unfortunately. It's Bedbugs and Ballyhoo here. So this one is, quite a different sort of sounding song. A lot more kind of, I guess, sort of proto-psychedelic sort of vibe to it. Definitely hear a lot of the Doors on this song, who were a big influence on Echo and the Bunnymen. So much so on this song you actually get Ray Manzarek from the Doors and playing keyboards on it. And it's kind of it's a groovy song, this one here. Got a kind of Les Patterson's bass line and this kind of menacing keyboard work on it. Really gives it that kind of that mysterious kind of Doors flavour. The only thing with this song, I don't really care for the lyrics, particularly the verse lyrics are just kind of basically nonsense, really. like sort of like that's the way that the bee bumbles, and like all like these kind of random kind of like sort of like that's the way the thunder rumbles, cannonball and rifle, rifle and cannonball, that's the way the thunder rumbles. It's just doesn't really say much really, but I do really like the chorus on this one. That down on your knees again bit is like a real nice release like to like the song. So this one was actually issued previous to the album coming out. This was the B-side to 1985's Bring On the Dancing Horses, and like I said, like would be issued as the third single like from this album. It's a decent track. This is really not one of my favourite Echo and the Bunnymen songs though. I do think they did this Doors kind of homage better on a track like Thorn of Crowns, perhaps, like from Ocean Rain. It's all in my mind. You say, stop looking for answers. Next up on the album is called All in Your Mind. Now this is a much more kind of like immediate kind of rocking, almost kind of punky song, this one here, with a kind of spiky riff and this kind of punchy organ work like going on like the track. I mean, I really haven't got too much to say about this one here. This was debuted at their 1985 Glastonbury appearance, so again it's a song that maybe goes back like a couple of years, that's sort of like at like the start like of like the making like of this album, and then it kind of ends with a really good extended guitar workout. And I can imagine this song being a very exciting kind of live number where the band could really just sort of like let loose and kind of really go for it. Yeah, like All in Your Mind like is a really good song here. On the march, Berlin to Bombers Bay. And then side one closes off with, I think, a really underrated Echo and the Bunnymen song, Bombers Bay here, which is a really interesting song kind of musically. It starts off again with a kind of prickly guitar riff, but then it becomes this kind of very lush, kind of reverb-drenched like kind of song. It's probably the most similar, like in spirit at least, to Ocean Rain in terms of being, you know, a much more kind of gentle orchestrated song. Even though like I think this is all just synthesizers like all like this song, it's got that similar kind of sort of like open airy kind of sort of like quite a breathable song, this, like I would say. I like McCulloch's vocal on this, which is quite different for him. It's sung quite low, like in like his register. My only gripe with it maybe is it feels like it, like the release like off like the song maybe could have been like a bit stronger, perhaps. Like, you know, he could have maybe like in like the chorus kind of like maybe like the last chorus or something really started to belt it out a bit, but he sings it quite low and quite monotone in that, which I think like is a nice contrast with the kind of like the music on it, which is quite lush and quite grand. Lyrics again on this are quite metaphorical, but could also be taken, I guess, like as like quite a straight anti-war song, like in some ways, and like it sort of like references like the sort of like the wartime song, like pack up your troubles in your old kit bag, and then just kind of talks about like sort of like bombs and that like going off, like the world went round in no dream town, they shut us up and the shutters down, the planes flew in and laid the ground, we built upon and spun around. So yeah, it's just about like that sort of being in like a world that is kind of being sort of destroyed kind of thing. So yeah, and it's like it's like a good song, this one, I feel. So yeah, Bombers Bay would get a 9 out of 10. Next up on the album is probably the most popular song on it, although it wasn't the biggest chart hit from the album. It's Lips Like Sugar here, which is a bit of a classic Echo and the Bunnymen song. Things I like about it, great guitar riff like on it, and the whole production of the song is just so big and so lush. I think it's a real, it's like really well produced, this song, I feel. And the lyrics on the verses are really strong, very romantic and like evocative, like in only the way that Ian McCulloch could write. Like, just when you think she's yours, she's flown to other shores to laugh at how you break and melt into this lake. Really nice lyrics like on like the verse, but for me the chorus just kind of lets the side down like a little bit, like the lips like sugar kisses, lips like sugar kisses. Feels like that could have maybe been a little bit more developed, or like a little bit more going on like on like the chorus. This is though a great song. It is one of their signature songs. It only reached number 36 on the UK charts, which I thought was a bit low for it. I thought this would have actually been like a much bigger chart hit, because it definitely has that kind of very commercial kind of 80s like sort of feel to it. And although it didn't chart like in like America either, this song apparently got picked up quite a bit on like kind of US kind of college alternative radio, and it's probably Echo and the Bunnymen's most well-known song like in like the States. So yeah, Lips Like Sugar, good track there, a 9 out of 10 from me. Next up is another song which is quite interesting sonically, which is Lost and Found, which again I would describe like as a bit of a grower. I think initially I kind of thought that this song was quite repetitive, like the chorus kind of does use that Lost and Found line quite a lot, but I do think that musically it is a very interesting track list. Reminds me a little bit like of New Order actually. Particularly like Les Patterson's bass line really evokes kind of Peter Hook and that, and there's also just a general absence like of guitars like on here, with like a lot of like kind of keyboard textures providing like the basis like off like the track. The lyrics on this one again, maybe a little bit basic about, I guess, trying to, sort of find yourself, like you were lost and sort of like now you're found kind of thing, like you've sort of discovered who you are, that sort of thing. So they're good lyrics on this one, and yeah, it's all around just like a good album track there, Lost and Found. Next one is called New Direction, which kind of continues the same kind of like lyrical themes, generally just about trying to like sort of like in this case, find like a new direction, find like your calling kind of thing. Like I'm like looking for a new direction, he sings, like where in the world am I took the word from the word was resurrection, and then you took me out to climb higher and higher. So yeah, it's some good lyrics on it. Musically maybe a little bit forgettable. Like it's just another quite upbeat kind of rocking song with a good riff like on it. Slightly annoying backing vocals on this one though. There's a kind of backing vocal like on like that I'm looking for a new direction bit, which is quite kind of high up and kind of traces McCulloch's vocal line, which I don't really need. I think is maybe like a bit like annoying, and also just generally the song maybe goes on a little bit too long. It's getting up about 5 minutes, this song. I think it would have been a lot more effective as a kind of short, snappy, punchy like little number there. But it's a decent album track there though. New Direction would get a 7 out of 10. I'm swimming out on a blue ocean. You're sailing out on Next up is called Blue Ocean. Now this is another kind of big, kind of grand sort of sounding song. This one really reminds me of like U2, like in like a lot of ways. And kind of U2 of maybe about say 5 years earlier, with kind of edge-like kind of shimmering guitars on it, and this kind of big piano that reminds me a bit of like the U2 song like New Year's Day. It's got that kind of feel to it, but of course these are songs that are going back to sort of like sort of like 5 years previously, so it doesn't feel like it's kind of new or fresh like this song, I think, and it kind of loses a bit like off momentum like halfway through, and just generally the song itself like isn't really all that memorable. I do like it when it's on, like I wouldn't skip it necessarily, but I just think it's kind of album filler like a little bit for me. Another one which maybe slightly falls like into like a similar category, but I do quite enjoy, like again, like when it's on, is Satellite, which is a more rocky track. This one here, I picked out like this sounding quite like REM. This song here, great kind of backing vocals on it. Like I really like sort of like the backing vocal work like on like this song. The guitar work on this is, I guess, maybe a bit similar to tracks like New Direction. It's got that kind of like that like quite like immediate like kind of feel to it. And yeah, I just quite like this song. So yeah, Satellite there for me would get an 8 out of 10. And then the album does finish with, again for me, one of the highlights on the album, which is All My Life, which is a really nice ballad. This is a lot more kind of softer kind of track, in a kind of style they would kind of revisit, I guess, on a track like Nothing Lasts Forever, but I think this song like is far superior. Like the lyrics have a great kind of sense of kind of like wrapping up and like that, and sort of concern, like you're sort of someone reflecting on like their life sort of thing, like sort of like attempts to kind of like sum up life. He sings like all All My Life revolves around laughter and crying. It's a really nice song, good strings on it, just a good sort of wholesome closer there, like on the album for me. Okay, so overall, this album would score 80%. So I think this is a pretty decent Echo and the Bunnymen album. It's certainly not my favourite of their albums. I would say, like, I would certainly rate Ocean Rain a lot higher than it, and probably Crocodiles, and maybe, I think I was looking back, like, on, like, my scores, and I think I gave Porcupine the same score, like, as this, which I think this is probably, like, a more consistent album than Porcupine, but Porcupine definitely has more highlights, like The Cutter, for example, like, on it, like Heads Will Roll, and, like, those kind of songs. But this is, again, like, I appreciate Echo and the Bunnymen. You're trying something a bit different on this album, going for, and probably maybe not through, like, their own choice, to be fair, for a more kind of slicker and kind of cleaner sounding album. It's definitely a lot more kind of listenable, easy listening almost kind of album, this one here, and, like, yeah, definitely, like, a lot more, like, easy on the ear than some of, like, the earlier work. But it's also a kind of, I guess, like, in a way, a return to their roots, you know, like, they are, like, away from, like, Ocean Rain, which was a very grand orchestrated album. On this record, they almost return to kind of just being a really good, solid band. Like, particularly, like, on, like, the rockers, like, on here, like, tracks like Over You, All in Your Mind, and Satellites have a kind of, like, a punchiness, like, and, like, an immediacy, which I guess was maybe missing from a lot of the tracks, like, on Ocean Rain. And then also there's some other great moments, like, on this album where they're kind of, like, expanding their sound, going for more kind of keyboard and synthesizer touches. So tracks like Bombers Bay, All My Life, and, like, Blue Blue Ocean definitely have, like, that sort of, like, quite a sort of, like, a big sound, like, to them, like, albeit, like, in quite a different way to the big sound, like, of Ocean Rain. Unfortunately, though, I think for Echo and the Bunnymen, I think what this album suffers from is maybe being a bit derivative of, like, a lot of the music that had kind of come between Ocean Rain and this album. It doesn't feel like they're innovating anymore. It feels like they're kind of trying to sort of play catch up, like, in, like, a way to, like, a lot of, like, the music that has kind of come, like, around, like, this time. It's quite interesting, like from, like, the release of, like, Ocean Rain to this album, you essentially had the whole career, like, of, like, the Smiths, like, between Echo and the Bunnymen albums. So it's quite, you know, it kind of feels a little bit like they kind of lost a lot of momentum, really. Like, a lot kind of happened, like, in, like, the music world, and I guess, to be honest, like, the world had kind of just moved on from them, like, a little bit, and that possibly explains maybe the fact that, like, the singles from this album didn't do quite as well as some of, like, their earlier singles. But I still think it is a solid, worthy album here, though, by Echo and the Bunnymen, which is definitely worth checking out if you're into like, anything kind of 80s indie, although you probably do know this album. Like, if, like, you're into, like, 80s indie, it's definitely one of the kind of, yeah, like, signature albums, like, of like, that sort of style. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed my review of this album. I would be interested to know what you think of the album down below in the comments section, and yep, I'll see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.